The Trump administration has been dealt another legal blow in their attempt to deport Venezuelan migrants using the Alien Enemies Act. Today, Judge Boasberg denied a request from the administration to dissolve his order, blocking the deportation of alleged Tren de Aragua gang members, ruling they're entitled to individualized hearings to determine whether the act applies to them at all. In his ruling, Boasberg wrote, because the named plaintiffs dispute that they are members of Tren de Aragua, they may not be deported until a court has been able to decide the merits of their challenge. The legal battle erupted just over a week ago after Boasberg initially blocked the deportation flights using the Alien Enemies Act, setting off a standoff between the Justice Department and the U.S. District Judge. The Trump administration has claimed it began the flights prior to the ruling on March 15th, with planes already over international waters at the time of the initial order. Now, in a separate case, Judge Boasberg is looking to determine whether the Trump administration violated his original order. This past week, during a series of court hearings, the Department of Justice has refused his request to provide the details of the original deportation flights. And during a hearing Friday, Judge Boasberg said, "I will get to the bottom of whether they violated my order, who ordered this, and what the consequences will be." The rulings have caught the eye of President Trump and his administration, who have publicly attacked Judge Boasberg. In multiple Truth Social posts, he lashed out at Judge Boasberg, saying he's doing everything in his power to usurp the power of the presidency. Now in Congress, a group of House Republicans are looking to impeach the U.S. District Judge. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan telling Fox News that hearings will start next week regarding Boasberg. And a spokesperson for the House Judiciary Committee doubled down, saying, quote, "All options are on the table." This battle between the judicial and executive branch comes as lawmakers return to Washington with a laundry list of tasks to accomplish to shepherd the president's agenda through Congress. Joining me now is the Hill's congressional reporter, Mychael Schnell. Mychael, we've seen articles of impeachment filed against Judge James Boasberg, while Democrats have made it clear there's no way they would make it through the Senate. What are other ways that Republicans are looking to either punish or put limitations on district judges who rule against Trump?
Yeah, hey, Judy. Look, one thing that House Republicans are right now looking at that Speaker Johnson actually signaled over the weekend that could come up in the House soon is legislation that would try to limit injunctions that judges put in place. So, of course, this being some sort of response to this criticism of Judge Boasberg and some of the other court rulings that we have seen against some of these Trump administration policies, court rulings and judicial opinions. Now, this piece of legislation, it's sponsored by Congressman Darrell Issa. It advanced through the House Judiciary Committee earlier this month. It could come up for a vote soon. It could be sort of a middle ground point for a way for Republicans to push back against these judges on Capitol Hill, because we know, as you mentioned, that President Trump, Elon Musk, and a number of hardline conservatives are pushing to actually impeach Boasberg. But there doesn't really seem to be an appetite for that within the House Republican Conference. I spoke to two House Republicans last week, Don Bacon and Dusty Johnson. They both told me they're not in support of it. And then another House GOP source told me that dozens of Republicans feel the same way behind the scenes. So there's not an appetite for it in the House, but let's game it out, Judy. Even if this were to squeak through the lower chamber, it would have no chance of moving in the Senate, because in order to remove somebody who is impeached, you'd need a supermajority, which is 67 votes. And even if all Republicans are on board, which isn't a given, you need at least 14 Democrats to support that as well, which is just never going to happen.
Not going to happen. It sounds like lawmakers are back in Washington this week. Republican leadership will meet tomorrow to begin discussions on how to work together their two budget resolutions. Do GOP leaders have a tough hill to climb there?
If a tough hill is right here, the Republican leaders are looking at this, right? It is an extremely tough battle that they are right now facing. And there's sort of a clock on this, right? We've seen Republicans lay out a very ambitious timeline to get this done. They want to get it done by Memorial Day. But really, the true deadline here is kind of at the end of the year, because that's when the 2017 Trump tax cuts expire, and Republicans want to extend those. So they are staring down this, deadline, and they still have a lot of work to do. House Republicans, of course, advanced their budget resolution for that one big, beautiful bill full of a lot of the president's priorities, tax cuts, border, energy, things like that. Senate, however, advanced its own budget resolution, as we know, that would utilize a two-track strategy. The first bill dealing with the border and defense, the second bill dealing with those tax cuts. So as you mentioned, now Republicans are going to need to reconcile those two blueprints. Now, we heard from one Senator, John Hoeven, last night, who said that the Senate wants to try to get the compromise budget resolution through the upper chamber by the end of next week. That is a very ambitious timeline. The idea would be then the House can get it the week after and get the budget resolution done and dusted before lawmakers break for Passover and Easter break. But it's an ambitious timeline. They have to work through a lot of thorny details, including how to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. What do you do about the debt limit? Where are you on spending cuts? A lot of things that Republicans are divided at. So yes, a very uphill battle as they look to finalize the budget resolution and then write this actual package. And then, of course, they have to get that through both chambers.
Some Senate Republicans are warning it could take a while to pass President Trump's agenda on border security, energy, taxes. What do they see as that timeline? How far off is it from Speaker Johnson's?
Yeah, Senate Republicans are saying sometime over the summer, which is beyond what Speaker Johnson's timeline has been. Though I will note, Johnson is going to have to edit his timeline a little bit. Johnson had initially said he wanted to get the final package to the president's desk by somewhere around Easter or Memorial Day. That's very unlikely to happen because we're seeing this disagreement between the two budget resolutions. But nonetheless, I had actually spoken to Speaker Johnson before this last week's recess, almost 2 weeks ago now, and I said some Senate Republicans are talking about maybe August for a deadline. What do you think of that? And he told me August is far too late. So there is urgency here. Folks are going to try to get it through. But getting back to what we were talking about just before, they have a lot of thorny issues to work through still. It's going to be an uphill battle. So we may see that deadline continue to creep back and back and back. But again, they're going to want to get it done by the end of December because that's when these tax cuts expire.
Mychael, I want to talk to you about Elon Musk, who seems to have Social Security in his sights. He's called it the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. And Democrats have been warning of cuts to entitlement programs. Do we know if the program will be safe through these government funding discussions?
Yeah, that's a big question here. Perhaps one of the biggest questions is what happens to things like Medicaid. So with budget reconciliation, you can't touch Social Security. It's not allowed. It would not pass what's called the Byrd rule. So Social Security is absolutely off the table. But the biggest conversation we've heard and concern we've heard is raised about Medicaid, and it's because in the House GOP budget resolution, it directs the Energy and Commerce Committee to find at least $880 billion in cuts. Now, the Energy and Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over Medicaid, so that has led a lot of folks to say you can't really hit $880 billion unless you tap into Medicaid. In fact, some scoring agencies have said such that it's going to be very difficult to hit 880, which, by the way, is a floor and not a ceiling for House Republicans. It's going to be very difficult to hit that without tapping into Medicaid. But that's a real concern and problem among many on Capitol Hill. We've heard from some moderate Republicans, for example, who are concerned about significant slashes to Medicaid because a large percentage of their constituents are users of the Social Safety Net program. So that's one of the conversations that folks are having right now in the House and the Senate as they try to reconcile these budget resolutions is how much spending cuts do we have in there, and what are we really going to do about Medicaid, because that could potentially turn off some votes when you need almost near unanimity when this final thing comes to the floor.
Mychael, how are Democrats moving forward as Republicans navigate ways to push Trump's agenda through Congress?
Yeah, Democrats are sort of trying to figure out their own issues simultaneously. We know that the budget reconciliation process is GOP only. Democrats will not be needed to vote for it. Their input is not going to be taken. They have no part in this process. So as I mentioned, simultaneously, they're kind of trying to figure out their own path forward. We know that since November, Republicans have been trying to pick up, Democrats, have been trying to pick up the pieces from those just damaging election losses in Congress, at the White House, trying to figure out what went wrong, how to fix it, and how to move forward, and also who the leader is going to be in leading them through this next phase of the minority wilderness. They haven't really landed on that yet, and that was pretty evident in the shutdown, the shutdown showdown that we saw earlier this month with Hakeem Jeffries saying don't vote for the CR, Chuck Schumer helping Republicans advance it to ultimately avert the government shutdown. Democrats are still trying to figure things out for their own. What's the best message to combat the Trump administration, and who is the best person to carry the party with that message? So as Republicans squabble and try to figure out how to get Trump's agenda over the finish line, we're seeing Democrats have these real conversations about the future path of the party.
Thank you, Mychael Schnell.
Thanks, Judy.
Second Lady Usha Vance will travel to Greenland this week, along with U.S. National Security Advisor Mychael Schnell and Energy Secretary Chris Wright. As the Trump administration eyes the Danish territory, Greenland's Prime Minister questions the visit amid increasingly strained relations with the U.S. News Nation's Alina Shirazi has the latest on this high-profile visit.
Yeah, Greenland's prime minister characterizing their trip as highly aggressive. He was quoted in a Greenlandic newspaper late Sunday saying this, quote, "What is the national security advisor doing in Greenland? The only purpose is to demonstrate power over us. His mere presence in Greenland will no doubt fuel American belief in Trump's mission, and the pressure will increase." He also added, "Until recently, we could trust the Americans who are our allies and friends and with whom we enjoy working closely, but that time is over." The National Security Council spokesman, though, singing a different tune, saying administration leaders are looking forward to the trip. Here's a part of Brian Hughes' statement. He says, quote, "The U.S. has a vested security interest in the Arctic region, and it should not be a surprise the National Security Advisor and Secretary of Energy are visiting a U.S. space base to get firsthand briefings from our service members on the ground. We are confident that this visit presents an opportunity to build on partnerships that respects Greenland's self-determination and advances economic cooperation." The Second Lady, though, for now, still moving forward with her plans to travel to Greenland on Thursday alongside Mike Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright. The White House saying she will watch the island's dog sled race and celebrate Greenlandic culture and unity. The office of the Second Lady saying that they will return for now on Saturday. And again, the trip still moving forward as planned. Judy.
News Nation's Alina Shirazi, thank you. A former U.S. attorney was found dead Saturday morning after police received a report of an unresponsive woman. Alexandria, Virginia police identified the woman as Jessica Aber, the former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. Aber had started there in 2009 as an assistant U.S. attorney and was nominated for the top job by then-President Biden in 2021. Aber received unanimous confirmation from the Senate and served until just 2 months ago. She stepped down when President Trump took office. Police say they're still looking into the cause and circumstances of her death. Aber was 43. Former Utah Congresswoman Mia Love passed away Sunday at the age of 49. Love was the first Black Republican woman elected to Congress. The former Congresswoman was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2022 and was given 15 months to live. She was part of an immunotherapy clinical trial at Duke University, but her daughter shared earlier this month that the cancer was no longer responding to treatment. Love was first elected to the House in 2014 and served for 2 terms, narrowly losing her seat in 2018 to Salt Lake City Mayor Ben McAdams. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Judy Kurtz. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.